Hi,
Hello.
gorgeous.
Hello.
Like stunned.
Well, I was just slightly not ready then. But I had
Yeah,
to surrender to the process. Very on theme.
exactly. I just had to pop that one so we can make that a part of our show today on surrender,
Oh god, that was funny.
and also being seen in that uncomfortable piece too.
Yeah, because I was talking about how I love our videos. Like I was like, I just talk to Z. Like I just talk to like because it's hard because I don't actually talk to anyone like I talk to you because it's got all the facets. Like
That's
I
true.
have friends that I can just be really real and fun and free with, and then they have spiritual people that can be kind of oh, let's question this. But with you, it's like an encompassment, if that's the word. I think I've just made it up, but a whole encompass of energy of
Yes.
that combination of like freedom and fun and playfulness, and also like just wanting,
Sovereignty.
yeah,
Total
sovereignty.
sovereignty.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
for sure.
That's what we were going to talk about today too. So we're going to throw a few of these out there. The surrender was going to be a piece. I know we talked about this before. This is like a deeper level of surrender, right? And I know I'm like a deer in a headlight, and we're going to let that flow its way through and see what happens next, guys.
Yep, yeah. I was just adjusting my audio because I realized every time I use this microphone, my volume is really loud on my voice. So I'm just trying to get it so it's not so loud because I have a
You're
loud
good.
voice, but we don't want it to be super loud. So yeah, and again, it's just on point with the surrendering piece because we can really only show up as we are in as unperfect raw form. And as you guys see me in the deer in the headlights moment at the beginning, I like to be quite polished when I'm in the professional world, and that's not fake. It's a sense of I like to represent myself in the best way, and I suppose that filters in some different ways to when I'm more comfortable and when I'm relaxing and when I'm not
Sure.
necessarily in the public eye. There is slight facets of me. I swear more. I'm a little bit more unfiltered, a little bit less afraid of people misinterpreting me because I'm not being viewed by so many people.
Sure.
So there is obviously parts of me that I do edit slightly when I'm on live. And I think we are blending that slightly though, because how I show up online now compared to how I first showed up online, it's like watching a robot me. I find it hilarious. Like my first video is shocking, but it's so I keep it on there because it's like we all got to start somewhere, and we've all got
Exactly.
to put something out there and start somewhere. And I think it's important to show up as you are and let that develop and let it just process. And that can apply to anything that you're going into. But yeah, I suppose we have a couple of things we wanted to talk about today, just to like anchor into the video and set the tone, the intention, the frequency. And, we've been following a series, I suppose, of the energies that have been unfolding
Yeah.
over, we started this last year, late last year, and then we had a little break after I had Sky in February, and then we came back on and we've been pretty consistent. So if you guys are interested and you're joining us new, there is so many more videos that we've already done about all the recent energies over the past few months. And including that, there's been a lot on the divine feminine and the
Very much so.
sacral activations.
Mhm.
But with the sacral activation, as with anything, as we've touched on, it's not just one piece, one version, one self. It's so many facets. And it's definitely shifting at the moment into the masculine
For
facet
sure.
because we're working through the feminine deeply. And now
Yep.
that divine masculine energy is really anchoring up. So we're going to talk a little bit
Sure
about
is.
the divine masculine tonight and how that's showing up in women, how that's showing up in men, how that's showing up in energies, in the vibes, how that's manifesting into the human realm. We're going to talk a little bit about the surrendering piece that we've already brought up and how that leads into the follow through. And we're going to just explore the vibrations and allow anything extra to come in. I'm not sure if I've missed anything off, but as far as I'm aware, that we're
Even if
kind
you
of the
did.
anchoring piece. Did I?
It's
Thanks.
okay. I think
Thanks,
the
Z.
main points.
Oh well, we got the main one.
I'm
But
just
yeah,
laughing at myself there because it's like the first video I was on. I just remember, and I still have it. It's popped up somewhere. I haven't looked at it for a second, and I was just like very like kind of like over the top, a little mechanical, very like intellectual more so than I ever like. And I could see like the people I had comments who were like, I can't understand her. She's too smart for anything else. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just being myself. But what's really funny about that is like, nah, I've grown a lot in the way that I present myself.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree.
And it's funny to have all of those parts and pieces out, and I also like them out as well because they show you from one point to the next and running through all the
Mm-hmm.
way to these new frequencies now how different the layers and levels are and how comfortable I am in my own nervous system, really.
Totally agree. It's the evolutionary journey, and how could we claim to be in our authentic self if we're not showing the evolutionary journey, in my opinion? Like,
Yep.
there's never going to be a finished, polished version. And as much as obviously I say I like to show up polished, it's more, not in my unprofessionality. I don't want to represent a part of me that people might not understand or might not know yet. And it's like, them parts develop with me the more comfortable I get with a certain person because they're deeper layers. And
Yes.
polished in terms of, there's fake and there's then you that's a more, like I always call it, like a hat. So you have a professional hat, you have a, mum hat, and like different versions of you. Like there's things I wouldn't do as a mum in front of my children that I might do in other environments. Like you're allowed to have multifaceted multifaceted parts of you that are still authentically you at different times.
Right.
And also you're allowed to own them parts, because sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable. Like when I'm at my mum's club, I'm not exactly going to be going talking about the rave I went to the other week, and
Yep.
how I had the most fantastic time at the ceremony dance. And it's like, you're not the right time and place, girl, not the right time and place. But, I'm definitely like aware of how they don't always blend, but
Yeah.
then I'm aware sometimes they do, and sometimes the right person asks the right question, and you end up having a whole conversation in the environment you didn't anticipate or expect it in. And again, that's bringing the surrendering piece in, to know, like, it's being in touch with yourself, being in touch with your
Totally.
intuition, being in touch with the
Totally.
vibrations around you, when it feels safe to open up more, when it's safe to be more you, and just allowing that to naturally flow, whether that is online, whether that is in a social group, or whether that's just genuinely with yourself, really.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
And I'm excited now to see how this is moving its way through because I'm extraordinarily comfortable with you. But now I present myself like I don't wear all of those hats. I have a few different ones that of
Yeah.
course, I'm in my dinosaur phase today. But but generally this is me like the entire time, and it's taken a level for me to get to that and then hold it steady,
Yeah, consistent.
like
Yeah.
very consistent with it where I'm like I am so highly uncomfortable, but what I is if I'm putting on a hat or a particular part of me or aspect of me is wanting to come out, is that because of the group I'm with? Is it because of the environment I'm in? Like I'm always
Mm.
checking to see that, and if it's because I'm just really uncomfortable and someone might judge me, then I'm gonna freaking do
Push
it and
through it.
hold it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. It's like assessing the, what's the word, like appropriatability. Again, making it words. I don't know if that's a
We're
word, but
making the words
you,
up,
you
and
guess what I'm
everybody
saying.
should
Like,
do it. I
is it
recommend it.
appropriate? I was like,
Please do it.
appropriatability. Appropriatability is definitely not a word, but you get my vibe.
Got
What's
it.
the appropriateness? I think that's the word of the environment. Again, like, I like to get diggy dig down raving, and I like to express myself in different ways in my sacral chakra and stuff, and there's definitely environments that's not an appropriate and energy to encompass in that vibration. And so
Right.
it's like,
Right.
but also that doesn't naturally then want to come out in the environment. So it's also just like being aware that they can coexist in different times. Like, as much as time is not
Exactly.
real, it's like different
Yep.
places of where you are in your energy,
Yep.
and different comfortability levels of what that feels like to you. And
Oh, for
again,
sure.
testing whether that is like, if it is just an anxiety and comfortability thing, and pushing through that sometimes, because that's where we are limiting ourselves from being our truest version of expression in that moment.
Right.
Mm.
Yep. So just in saying that, everybody, I encourage you to kind of experiment with yourself and see
Yeah.
like what is the read on the people you're around? What does it feel like going out? How much of yourself can you embody, even if that's a little bit of weird,
Mm.
and hold it steady for a period of time. And even if you do got to put a little bit of something on, like I really encourage that too, because at the end of the day, it's about our nervous systems being safe. And if
Yeah.
they're not, then they're not gonna come out in that way. And it takes the time to do that. And I still have some of those parts and pieces where I'm like, that is not a safe space for me. So it's gonna be a no. Or
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna slightly shift this a little bit so that my body does feel safe in it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a difficult one for me. Yeah, I suppose it's not as difficult now, but before it would be fight or flight. I don't want to do this. So the second I get that uncomfortability of like, oh, I don't feel safe, it would be shut down. Don't want to do this. I walk away, get away from this situation as fast as you
Yep.
possibly can,
Yep. Yep.
And if you can't, then go into defense mode and start to protect
Sure.
yourself. And
Yep.
that would be
Sure.
like my straight go to. And I do find it difficult because it's a different one. Like when I feel challenged or when I feel like questioned or judged, I don't feel that same fight or flight, like I need to get out of here. It's when I don't feel safe. So when
That's
I
it.
feel confrontation, when I
Yep.
feel my children are around, is this going to escalate or am I going to need to defend myself verbally? Am I
Yep.
need to like
Yep.
switch into an energy I'm not in right now? It's like that anticipational energy. I don't know how necessarily to always ride that wave because my nervous system kind of overrides it instantly, like, right, okay, shut down. And
Yep.
it, and
Yep.
that I am unraveling a lot. And I'm aware of when I'm doing it sometimes, like when the environment is more safe, but I'm expecting it to
Right.
be not to be safe.
Yep.
So I'm looking at it thinking, oh, this is not going to be safe. Should I shut down? And in that moment, I can say, hang on a minute, maybe you could just like ride this out. Maybe you could be vulnerable. Maybe you could try something different when
Right.
it doesn't look as physically dangerous. But in that moment, if there is a sign to me that this is not going to be a safe place, I am still working through that shutdown mode and
Yep. Yep.
shut us down. I don't really know how to get them back up straight away in that moment. It will take me time after that
It
to
takes,
go
yep,
back into safety, go
for
back
sure.
into like the
Yep.
vagus nerve calming down, the adrenaline, the
Yep.
cortisol
Yep.
calming down, and then my body going, oh, okay. Then maybe reflecting on how I could deal with it differently, maybe communicating with that person and explaining, or not, or just waiting to anticipate what the next situation is. But it's not an easy transition for me right now. It's not an instant one either. I still feel the
Yep.
shutdown,
Yep.
have to wait, have to leave, have to get better first, then go back in the situation and deal with it in
Absolutely.
a different way.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think it's really a piece of artwork actually coming out into these facets where like even in myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not know that was gonna trigger that. Good Lord. Like, and it takes the time that it takes. I still will have some shutdown moments where like I
Yeah,
can't verbally speak and I have to sit with it for a second and be like, okay. And it's been really useful for me to have a partner to do the deep stuff back and forth with.
yeah,
Um, that I'm really like, I'm going to tell you right now that I don't have words at the moment. Give me a moment,
yeah,
and then continue to lean into it even further to be like, okay, I had a moment. I'm going to tell you right now, this is what's coming up on the table for me and why I'm unable to feel safe or come over or talk to you right now. And as long as that's a safe person and they're open to that experience, then I can work that really through my nervous system where the next time around it doesn't do that. But it's always like that, like, oh my gosh. And it's throughout the day where I'm like, I hit at least a two, three couple points where my body's like,
yeah. Am I okay? Am I not okay? I get
right
it
now
so
I'm
much.
not okay. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I got you. That makes sense.
Oh, I get it. No, and I love that for you. I love that you're able to kind of be working through that now because I think as much as sometimes it can be more challenging working through things with a partner and like sometimes living with people or being in a confided space regularly,
Hmm.
it's also, I think it really pushes us to kind of show up at the best version of you at all times because you're not wanting to create more damage
For
with
sure.
yourself, with that pattern, with the relationship, with your children,
Exactly.
with the family,
Yep.
etc. So,
Yep.
like when I'm feeling all, instead of me just staying in that and not doing anything about it, which I might have probably done on my own, maybe I would have done, who knows? But what I'm saying is, I am then forced to identify it, communicate it, and
Yep.
express it without projecting it so that
Yep.
that doesn't create an argument in the home. And I'm like, oh shit, this is
Yep.
fucking hard work. Like, I have to really think about, I have to sit there in the bath and I go, okay, what's creating? this emotion? I literally ask myself
That's what
questions
I do.
like to just get to the root of
Yep.
why am I feeling not safe? What caused me to shut down? Or even why did I wake up feeling this way? What's going on in my subconscious mind to create this level of anxiety? Like,
Right. Right.
what is actually going on with me? And that is so important. That is self accountability and
Totally.
awareness, because you cannot expect someone to fix you. As much as we talk about safe people, safe places, that is
Yep.
wonderful because that's what we should all be showing up for each other. But that's not them fixing you and your trauma. That's not their job. That's not the job of any partner, any person, any friend, nothing. The job is, and it's not a job, but the role of each other is supporting each other is to be able to communicate and reflect on each other to
Right.
bring back
Right.
growth and evolutionary processes within self. And so when we're talking about like a safe place,
Yep.
you know, I can't be expected to show up as perfect, and neither can they. But if I'm saying, hey, this is how I'm feeling really dysregulated right now, I'm feeling really overwhelmed, really anxious. And so I'm feeling a bit like on edge. So if you feel me snapping or a little bit overwhelmed, like I'm trying to explain to you, this is why I'm not trying to do that. I'm
Exactly.
communicating my
Yep.
emotions and why I'm dysregulated right now. And then that can either be met by a safe person or a not safe response. And that's usually,
Right.
okay, I hear you right now. What do you need? Do you need anything from me? Or, you know, do you just need a bit of da, 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 da? Or a defense, a reactive based response, which is to gauge a reaction out of you or to push, you know, why you're feeling like that, or not in that way, but like you know, a reflection of self or defensive, you saying I've done something to cause that, da, 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 that's creating an argument, and then making you shut down and making you feel like you're the problem or your emotions are the problem, or, you know, again, that's not a safe place. So it's all these are assessing. This is such a layered journey because it's first feeling it, acknowledging it, identifying it, communicating it, assessing the way of communicating it with that person,
Right.
and then reflecting on the response. And hopefully, if you are in a safe place environment,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be met with not fixing, but
Right.
being seen. And in that being seen and maybe being held in a certain way of affection or support or communication or just validation and acknowledgement, that can then allow that process to be actually moved through your body in that environment. Because if you
Exactly.
are still not safe, it's just going to be held within. And so
Right.
that
Right.
softness of, oh, it's okay for me to feel like this, I'm okay to have this emotion, this feeling, that then allows it to be released, which then allows softness and growth and going back to a level place.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really just being seen that the nervous system needs from yourself. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna see this point. Obviously, there's an emotion here. And I've been really like interested with my responses lately in my body because I would not have guessed, and that's why the surrendering piece comes in. And I would not have guessed that that tiny little speck would have triggered something. And they're like, ah. I'm like, oh my
Literally.
gosh, I can't, you know. And that goes like with all connections in basis with friendship, partnerships, or sometimes those are intermingled, right? It's just, can they see you in that without trying to fix you?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and you're creating the safe space for yourself, but I also know with my body, like it needs a safe space too. Like
Yeah.
it needs either a room that it can trust to go back into, or
100%.
even if
Yeah.
that's outside hugging a tree, which is a common one for me, or a person that I can kind of come to and be like, I don't need anything, but this is coming up.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, do you have open space for it? And, you know, I might need a hug or something like that. And that's it.
Yeah. 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 Just need a bit of affection, a bit of, you know, physical touch, or, you know, someone to get out these thoughts and to like
Right. Right.
reflect on things, or like I've been looping something, or sometimes it might be an ask of support if it is like I'm overwhelmed with the house, or I'm overwhelmed with the kids, or I'm
Right.
overwhelmed with
Right.
work. Like
Yep.
sometimes it might be a request of physical support, but again, that's not fixing, that's teamwork, that's working together as community or partnerships. And that's what we should be doing for each other anyways, if we have the capacity to do so. And if they don't, it's not having the expectation that they have to fix it every time, like have to show up every time. If they say, oh,
Yep.
just at this current moment I'm just a little bit like overwhelmed, dysregulated myself, could I come back to that and follow up with that later on, you know, as long as it's not every time like a shutdown, then again, like we also have to respect their needs, their capability, their limitations as well. And it is a give and take dance that we are learning to do with each other, whether that's
For sure.
partners, family, friends, work,
Yep.
co-workers, whatever. It's
Yep.
finding the balance and the harmony. And the key piece, I think, is vulnerability, because it's the
Massively.
vulnerability to ask, and the vulnerability to offer and the vulnerability to not try and fix things, because I'm a bit of a fixer. I used to be
Right.
sometimes like,
Yep.
oh, how can I fix it? So
Yep.
it's all them levels of vulnerability to just sometimes sit with that raw emotion, sit with them through it, sit
Yep.
there and be vulnerable about it. I don't know why I'm doing this.
But we're gonna
This is
sit.
representing vulnerability right now. Apparently, this is
It's a
what
good
vulnerability
representation.
is. Yes. Yes.
Indeed.
Yes. Yes. Vulnerability, I think, is a key piece to
What
this right
what would you
now.
say vulnerability? Yeah, what would you say vulnerability is to you? Like, how would you define that for yourself?
Great question. To me, right, it is like that moment, like you say, when you get that response or that trigger.
Hmm.
So I had one the other day. Someone was like, "Oh, stop being so childish," and my whole body, or like it just felt like burning, like like shrinkage, and like plastic wrap was just being wrapped around me, and
Oh
I could
yeah. Yep.
feel like obviously my nervous system shutting down my body, but instead I was like, and I was like, okay, I have to sit this in this vulnerability piece, and I have to sit here for this moment. And I couldn't speak for a minute. It took me
Mhm.
like
Of course. Yep.
literally about 60 seconds. I was thinking, okay, what words are the best way to say this? Because I was emotionally charged behind it, because I felt defensive straight
Yep.
away.
Yep.
And so I was like, I don't want to come across defensive. I want to be just raw and vulnerable. So I was thinking in my mind, what is the best way to word this emotion? And I just kind of said, that comment that you said, I know you didn't have the intention to do that, but it really made me feel like shut down, and I felt like I was having a really nice energy, and then it shifted me into like not wanting to like be in that same playful or nice energy. Like I felt really cold and closed off,
Hmm.
and I don't want to feel like that, but that's
Yep.
how it made me feel.
Yep.
And straight away there was an acknowledgement, like, oh, I'm so sorry, that's not my intention. And I explained why. I was like, I do feel like as a child I was quite having to be an adult, so I never really got to like be a full child.
Right.
And so
Right.
when
Yep.
I do experience that, I feel like some sort of guilt about it, or like some type of way about it. And so then when I'm called out for acting that way, it's like deep shame that I'm working through of,
Right.
making me feel extremely judged for being childlike. And
Yep.
so I explained why it had that emotional charge behind it as well, because it's a close person. And I wanted to explain like the backstory to understand why I was so emotionally reactive to that, because I didn't do anything, but there was a clear shift in my emotions. And that for me was really vulnerable, because it felt extremely uncomfortable. And instead of like just ignoring it, shutting down and getting angry about it, then being snappy all day and ruining the day and
Sure.
not being able
Yep.
to communicate it, which is
Of
something
course.
I've done for a long, long time.
Yep.
I
Yep.
sat with it, I acknowledged it, and I actually spoke through it, which was really like riding that wave of vulnerability to
Hmm.
communicate. And that I really think that's such a big part of creating new pathways,
Yep. The key.
deeply.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I would say thank you for that, by the way. I just wanted to give some examples of like what that actually is, because sometimes
No,
even for me, when I was first hit up against the word vulnerability, I'm like, I don't know what that is, you know? How do I I had to experience it to like kind of redefine that for myself, which would be kind of exactly what you were saying is to dive deep into the space when you're feeling like shut down or overwhelmed or you have a big emotion and sit with it for a period of time to see what your action point is going to be with that. And for me, like it's usually a communication point too, where it's like, hey, I am feeling this in the space, and I've had plenty of these opportunities last a little while. And, I know that that's not what you're meaning to do, and that's fine. This is my trigger, and I take responsibility for it. And also, can we like work through this point together so that like I can help myself repattern it and might not come off that way, and the next time.
yeah, no,
But
exactly.
but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't want to interrupt. I was like, didn't want to
No,
interrupt you.
you're
So I
good.
was like, is she
You're
finished
good.
yet? No, no.
I was gonna say with you, I would have been in such appreciation for your little kiddo coming out, knowing that it had been shut down,
Yeah.
and I would have been like, oh my gosh, I see something that's incredible coming to the surface right now, and I can understand that piece because that's coming from me, and I'm a big kid most of the time, so
Yeah. No, I love that about you though. I think that's why we have such a resonance, because it's a sense of like we like connect to people who are either bringing parts out of us or reflecting parts of
Yep.
us, either that we need to work on or that we need to
Sure.
like bring out on or that we need to connect with or that we are already active with, and I think that's like again one of the deepest parts why I connect with you, because it's that safety to be that, and there's not many
Totally.
people, and I think or a lot of it's not, I won't say my fault, but I've got into a dynamic of being like the more responsible, the mum of the group.
Sure.
Before I had children,
Yep.
I was always like the everyone, I'll look after everyone. Like I think it was just my subconscious programming. And so it was always difficult to break that dynamic when you've already established a dynamic of being like that elder, if you will. I don't know what the word is
Totally.
for it, but you know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
That energetic elder vibes. It's like, how can you just shift off into then that other vibrational energy when I'd kind of got into one and stuck into it? And so it's been really hard to break that, my own expectation of self, my own expectation to represent myself in a certain way as well, and to break that and to not be extremely uncomfortable doing that around the people that are used to that energy
Sure.
as
Yep.
well. Like,
Yep.
and physically having to say, like, me and Brad went on his first ever child free night out in 3 years the other day on Saturday night. They went,
Wow.
I know it was mad. They went to grandparents and friends at my house. So they're two separate places because it's too much to have them one person. I struggle. I don't think anyone else can manage. Just yeah. And we said to us two friends that usually we would like look after because we're both like the mum and the dad of the group. We was like, listen, we are off duty tonight. Sort yourself out. And it was a really clear boundary of joking, like in a playful way, but like we are not going to be bringing that energy of parental responsibility for you in this energy when that energy does shift and it is breaking them dynamics, sometimes literally saying it like that's not
Totally.
what we're doing here, so you need to establish a new dynamic in self and affirming that. And
Yep.
obviously the boys took it well, but they had to sort of their own way home and their own little adventures of self, and they
That's funny.
managed, and that's the thing, they managed because they're fully grown adults, and this is why we have to kind of sometimes shift that dynamic, because if you keep doing things for people, they will get there themselves.
For sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like we talked about this a little bit before, but the masculine energy coming into
Mm-hmm.
play, and I just kind of reminded me of that because as far as vulnerability goes, and my shutdowns actually came from my masculine.
Really, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That
And I was
makes
like,
sense.
oh, look at that. I have a lot of work around my masculine that I'm going to do with this. And the first thing with the masculine for me that I really had to work with is taking the accountability.
Right.
Like I
Right.
had to take a lot of accountability.
No, but I think that's true. And I think that's what I've been feeling like. Sometimes I don't label it until we talk about it. That's why I love these videos, because I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes so much sense. Because obviously the sacral chakra's been, or the femininity has been flowing through. And I still feel that presence so grounded. And that's what's
Yeah.
interesting right now.
Yep.
Because usually when I'm working on one, I'll shift between the other. So I'll work on the feminine and then I'll work on the masculine, and then I'll work on feminine. However, I've anchored in this frequency of feminine energy
Yep.
that's like she ain't fucking going anywhere. Like she's here to stay right now. So she's over here. And
Yep.
then this new energy of like accountability and like you say, that fight or flight, shut
Yep.
down,
Yep.
like literally leave or fight. I had that extremely overcharged, like turn it up by a million. That's what mine was at. And so that, like you say, is more of a masculine trait, not a feminine one. And
Yep.
yet I was living in that extremely, and I'd been deeply having to unpick that over the
Sure.
past week or two.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
by doing that, as we were saying, I have to be doing that by literally getting a bath in the morning and talking to myself and journaling on my phone or in a notepad. I just don't want to get wet, so my phone's easier, and writing
Yep.
down the questions of
Yep.
what, why, taking accountability, having awareness for what's going on. And that is very masculine reflections. But
Yep.
yet the feminine energy is still so predominant in my system. So it's clear that there is a deep integration with that sacral
Sure.
chakra of both facets. And this
Yep.
is now
Yep.
the integration of the masculine facet that's just coming to join the feminine rather than
Of
one
course.
taking over the other. It's
Right.
literally
Right.
forming the yin and yang, which is the balance. And we might yo-yo a little bit in which energy is more like
Yep.
coming up in the other, but it's still balanced at all times, if that makes sense. That's what I'm getting anyways.
Yep, yep. No, that's totally what I'm getting. I feel like I had to definitely anchor the feminine first because she was very potent and very wild. And like, yeah, she was like, and I'm like,
I'm here.
"Ugh." I'm just gonna work with you for a hot second. And once that like fell through my body and like my body was great with that, the entrance of the masculine was quite the dance because my masculine was very shy to come step to the plate. It was really actually quite afraid of the feminine and how much rage she had, for one thing. Not so much towards it anymore, but he was used to that, where it was just a
Yeah,
constant like hit, like you're not doing this, you're not, and like
that makes
you know.
sense.
And
Mm.
so he was very nervous about it. It took me a good, probably like the last 3 weeks to really continue to work with him to be like, hey, you're welcome in the space. They're now walking hand in hand and doing really well. But there are definitely facets where like I notice my body just stop for a second. That's the shutdown piece. And he's then deciphering, okay, I'm gonna have to take accountability for something and I'm gonna have to be very vulnerable. And also, I'm really kind of afraid of this feminine right now. I'm not gonna lie, because I think she's gonna slap me real hard.
Honestly, you just put it into words. Like, I don't think I could have explained it any better. Bang on. Bang on.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's been like that, like, okay, we're gonna take a deep breath. And then he goes, I'm gonna take the accountability for it. And then he holds that just really steady. I am taking accountability for it. Doesn't say anything else. I'm just gonna vibrate at accountability. And with that, then the feminine comes in and she has a softer aspect to it then and goes, okay, well, I'm also gonna take accountability for this.
Yeah. 100%.
How that
It's that
dance goes.
harmony.
Exactly.
But no, it is. And obviously, that's how it's been manifesting up in me. I totally agree. And I've seen it manifest in men a lot lately as well. And I've been working with some men doing sessions. I've been seeing it in, close men around me, my dynamic. And it is quite emotional and it's
Yes.
different. Again, everything's fucking different. Like we've been through these, aspect integrations in the past, but not like this. Not in the feminine way with the fire and the potency,
Right.
like you said,
Right.
that she wasn't a fucking male. And then the I don't want to say softness, but vulnerability is probably a better word to the masculine right now.
Yep.
Is
Yep.
so unfamiliar. And I am kind of taken aback by it when I'm confronted with it. I don't know how to respond to it because this is not
Totally.
usual for me. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what do I say here? And I just get a bit emotional. I'm like, ooh, because I feel a bit not confronted by it. It's not confrontation, not in that
Sure.
way. It's
Right. Right.
confronted by the emotion of it. And like, this is not normal to my nervous system. So I
Yes.
don't know what the best way to respond to this situation is for like their reverberation, for my reverberation, like
Totally.
what is the best way to deal with it? It's unfamiliar, so it's
Super
uncharged territory,
unfamiliar.
but I'm
Super
watching these.
uncomfortable. Yep,
Yes.
it's really uncomfortable. And I've definitely found that the feminine needs that accountability to stay to feel safe in the space.
Right.
Like number
Yeah.
one thing. If the masculine can be like, okay, I'm taking accountability for that. Look, I did not take action on that. And look, I'm having some deep and the masculine has been carrying so much shame and guilt from so many aspects, especially when it comes to the feminine that
Mm-hmm.
if he's like, okay, like I'm gonna take accountability for that. I was feeling shameful for about it. I didn't want to speak up with you there because I was honestly afraid you're gonna lash out at me, which is a valid point because I've seen you do it before.
Right. Right. And we have to take accountability for that too. I agree. I agree.
So, yeah, I feel like that accountability piece is a really big aspect to help the feminine feel safe. And the feminine wants to take accountability too. It's just with the feminine, she's more of the emotional embodiment. So,
Mm,
accountability is her really expressing those. I feel like for my person, just really just ex an
totally agree.
expression. Like,
Mm-hmm,
okay,
mm-hmm.
this is my vulnerability then, and me taking accountability. I actually can feel my emotions and express them.
Yeah. And I feel like it's that's met, like you say, from the initiation of the accountability from the masculine. When
Yeah,
that's taken, it sets the vibe, it sets
totally.
the tone. It said,
Totally.
right, okay, I'm meeting you here, I'm vulnerable, I'm ready to work with you, I'm not fighting you, I'm not judging you, I'm not shutting you down, I'm not invalidating you, I'm here, I'm hearing you, I see you. Which then the feminine, she just softens and it's like, okay, let's go,
Yep.
let's
Yep.
talk
We
through
can do
it,
this now.
let's communicate, like, yeah, this can be worked through. But if
Yep.
it's met with, like, I used to really struggle with I always needed that accountability, but then it's met with, oh, you just want to, like, what was the word, you just want to have that I'm wrong. And that's not the case. It's not an ego thing, because there's a
Yep. Yep.
fine line between
Yep.
this. Like, you don't want to be constantly expecting someone to apologize and apologize and apologize. That's not what we're saying. Because apologizing means nothing if there's no follow through action. You know,
Right.
it's actually recognizing the impact of actions, whether that was intentional or not. And
Totally.
so, like my comment earlier, you know, that could have been met in one of two ways. It could have been met with what you're on about. It was just a silly, stupid joke. Why are you getting so defensive? Why are you being
Totally.
stupid? And that would have completely invalidated everything, shut me down, no emotion of vulnerability
Totally.
whatsoever.
Yep.
Or it could have been met in the way it was, which was acknowledgement. Like, I'm really sorry, that was not my intention. And I didn't mean to make you feel that way. And curiosity, why did that make you feel
Exactly.
that way? You know, what's
Exactly.
going on there? And then that opened up a conversation to be more vulnerable. And that is where we need to be meeting each other. And
Yep.
that comes from the initiation of acknowledgement. But first of all, that comes from the initiation of vulnerability to even bring it up in the first place, which is the acknowledgement in
Totally.
self.
No, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
both parties, masculine and feminine, the vulnerability is the biggest hit here.
Yeah, truly. It's like the little key that we have in my little invisible diamond shape right
Totally.
here.
A little vulnerability.
My little vulnerability piece that I was sat here creating. But
It,
maybe that's my way of regulating through vulnerability, because I don't know, I feel sensory, like sometimes overwhelmed
totally.
physically when I'm going through them emotions. So even talking about it sometimes can create that uncomfortability. And you know, just checking in with self on ways you can move through that with more ease. I think for me, communicating, journaling, asking myself questions is key, because
Yep.
how can I expect someone else to understand and reflect if I'm not doing that work
Totally.
myself? You know, that's
Totally.
again looking at that stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that and going back to self. And for me, pausing for a second
Mm-hmm.
before I have that response, whether I'm like, okay, I can't be here right now. I need to go take care of myself. So I have a moment to reflect, write that out before I come back to communication. If my nervous system like resets itself quickly because it's been through that phase before, then I can take a deep breath and be like, hey, this is what it was before. This is not what it is now.
Yeah,
I can have the ability to communicate and say,
quicker.
hey, like, this didn't feel good, or be really open to someone else being like, hey, your action here, like, it just created a dissonance in me and I want to have a chat about it. And there's a thing with that too, is not taking it personal. Like,
Yeah.
for the majority of the time, most people are not intentionally trying to hurt at all. Like, I have had people where that has been the case. I've shifted out of that residence.
Oh, sure. But it is quite rare, like you say. It's
Yeah,
I find it very quite rare that someone's intentionally going out of their way to
totally.
cause you emotional or physical harm. You know, it does
Right,
happen, like I say, it
right.
does definitely happen. But in most cases, when it happens, especially between loved ones and communication between
Yep,
family and friends and
yep,
healthy partnerships, it's not an intentional thing. It's more lack of awareness, lack of understanding of your
yep,
triggers, lack of communication about past things, lack of you even knowing your own triggers until they're
totally.
triggered. And
Yep,
so
yep,
these things are going to happen. We don't live in an ideal world. We're working through the shadow. And someone in a session asked me today, how long are we going to be going through this like releasing for?
right.
And I was like, well, I get that it could be a good few years that we're going to be working through this stuff. Like, we've been doing this layer upon layer upon layer of trauma for his
Totally.
whole lives. And so this is not
Yeah,
just going to be unpicked overnight. You know, I do get about 6, 7 years at least of the deep unraveling, but that's not going to be all the time every day. It's more
right, right.
if we want to embody that frequency, as you said before, the descending into the human body, because I like
Yes.
that word. That's cool. I like that. It's like
Yeah,
bringing the energy in. You know,
yes, yes.
it's being able to hold that frequency, and we
That's it.
can't hold
Yep.
that frequency if we have all this
Just
shit
stuff in and moving around.
basically
Yeah, yeah,
blocking the way. And so to unravel that stuff, we have to unpick it and unrelease it and let go of the layers over time.
yep,
And
yep,
that means working through these purges and emotional releases and traumas and acknowledgements and patterns and programs and da 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 da. Da. And it is just finding a way to anchor yourself through it, finding ways to stay grounded,
absolutely.
finding ways to find
Agree.
joy, finding ways to
Yep,
create
yep,
expression and fun and laughter and music and things that bring you a sense of purpose. Them things are going to be what keeps you going through the unraveling and the unshackling that we are doing right now.
I appreciate that. I'm like, I'm gonna circle that. That's a gold star right there. That's exactly what we're talking. talking about here is that full embodiment of that energy. And again, we're really talking about the body, the humanness, the human consciousness that's really working with that piece as the soul is coming in further and fusing with that body. The body's got to understand the communication to unravel. And this is a daily piece, at this point. And it's not going to be we're going to drop it and be done. Hey, everybody, we're in the space. We can do all the things together now. It's today. I've got a deep piece on the plate. Okay, and
Yeah.
it's got to be on the plate. And it's that surrender piece to that aspect of it that allows you to move through that, come out the other side, work the emotion of it, and go, oh, guess what? I can take a step now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Truly. Truly. And that comes with sovereignty and empowerment. And that's something
yep.
a lot of us have been like suppressed and beat down from. We don't encompass a lot of that naturally. It's not
Right.
just
Right.
there naturally for a lot of us. We have to work out, we have to create it within self. And
Mhm.
it goes hand in hand with the surrendering, because all of us, as we reiterate nearly every week on this show, none of us are specifically over gifted than one or the other. We're all of the
Correct.
same ability to access frequencies as each other.
Indeed.
It's simply that a lot of people watching, maybe, or people not watching, anyone, don't necessarily trust their own abilities, their own self,
Mhm.
their own
Yep.
connection, their
Yep.
own knowings, whether it's to do with their children, whether it's to do with themselves, whether it's to do with other people, or anything in the life process. It's that lack of trust and confidence and knowing within self
Yep.
that you have the capability, you have the skills to connect, you have the skills to ask questions with your higher self, you have the skills to connect in with timelines and future timelines and everything that you really want to know. You have the capability to access it. And in the same way as when, for me, when I give birth, it's a deep surrender of knowing that this is only going one way. We're only going to go give
Right.
birth. So the whole
Right.
point of it is, why are you fighting it? Why are you fighting the pain of the contractions? Why are you wanting it to be over soon? Why don't you just
Yep.
surrender to the experience and stop overthinking it and let it just happen? Because
Yep.
the more I did that, the more I would literally lay back in that pool and surrender to knowing that my body is built to do this. My whole being is
Yep.
chosen this time. This soul, everything is in
Yep.
alignment, and
Yep.
trusting in that everything is going to be divinely purposed and timed and in its way that it should be, and having deep surrender to that. I got asked a question about the way I give birth today on TikTok, like, how do you not have the fear that something's going to go wrong? And of course, everyone has that. Every pregnant woman has that. Every woman going into giving birth has that fear.
Totally. Totally.
But
Yep.
where you are cannot control whether that's going to happen or not.
Right.
And I trusted in my own body, my own intuition, my own baby, knowing that I felt most safest at home. And that's where oxytocin and love is created. And that's what helps birth be more natural
Yep.
and more easy and transitional in the most smoothest process. So all this knowings was brought to me by moving through that fear. I didn't not feel it. I felt the fear, but I sat with it and I looked at it dead in the face and I asked them really dark, horrific questions to self. And I sat with the answers and I trusted that I trust in myself and I trust in my body and I trust in the universe and I trust in the spirit that was coming to me. And I surrendered to that whole experience,
Mm.
knowing that it would be exactly how it was meant to be,
Yep.
including worst case scenario involved
Yep.
if that was the
Yep.
case, because
Yep.
that would have happened anywhere.
Right.
And
Yep.
it's the knowing of them things, and it's the
Sure.
knowing that where you are in a human timeline does not change things that were already predestined to happen.
Right.
And it's the trusting that I knew what was best for me and my bodies and my babies and my life. And it was
Yep.
obviously the right option for me. But
Yep.
when people don't listen to that and they don't listen to their intuition and they are led by fear, most women I talk to, that is their biggest regret. Is making decisions based upon fear and fear mongering and pressure rather than listening to their own inner selves, or even
Right.
considering the fact there
Right.
was another option and considering the
Right.
fact they had
Yes.
sovereignty
Yes.
over their own bodies,
For
and
sure. For
so
sure.
there's so much to consider there. But I think it's a great representation of surrendering to fear and surrendering through the potential fears that arise in
Right.
anything.
Right.
Take it
Right.
out of the context of birth, take it into anything. There's going to be fear. You're going to feel the fear. We're not saying you're not going to feel this
Yeah.
emotional
No,
fear,
not at all.
but it's surrendering to that fear and looking it dead on in the eyes and going for it anyways, because that fear is the thing that's limiting you, and it's
Right.
stopping you
Right.
from getting to that expansion.
And this universe, from my perspective, is based off of contraction and expansion, right? The contractions are going to come. If you want to
Mm.
grow and expand into something new, a contraction is going to be there. That's a natural facet of how it moves its way through. And I feel like this fear aspect that comes through is our biggest opportunity to have the courage to trust ourselves when it comes up. I'm going to face this. This fear is coming up, and guess what? We both have them, right? We all have the
Mhm.
fears that come up. I'm not going to say they're not. My body does viscerally feel fear. It is a thing.
Mhm.
And
It's a legit thing.
it's meeting it and going, I'm going to welcome you into the space because I'm not going to resist it. I'm not going to fight it. There's nothing I'm going to do with that. I've tried that one before. And guess
Yeah.
what? That just leads me further into the fear aspect, right? So
Mm.
I'm going to welcome it to the table and say, hey, look, this is here right now. What can I do in this moment as far as surrendering goes? And then action step and moving through it so that I feel sovereign and empowered. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to give the fear that power. I'm not
Yeah,
going to give that
no,
away.
exactly. Because, and like you say, anyway, ignoring it, not choosing to look at it, or choosing to overthink it, whatever it is, you're giving it power. Whereas if you just sit with it, look at it, work through it, you're removing the power it had over self. I had to do that the other day. I had to really, I was so anxious about something, and then I just communicated it out, and then it was addressed, and then it was over, and I was like, "Fuck, why didn't I do that earlier? Like, why did I sit with that all day? Like, what the fuck?"
You're like, yeah,
And I
I could
really
have
was
done
like, "I
that.
should have done that earlier," but it was a good
Yep.
learning lesson to, like, you can do that. That is a safe thing to do. And again, we are just doing that small little things, test of learning, communicating, being safe, testing the waters, learning from this and this and this and this. This is how we grow.
Yep, exactly. And it's a continuation of that process that I feel like for me, as soon as I surrender, I can do this. That gives
Right.
my body, and this is really from my perspective, you're giving your body the sovereign power. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because your soul has been doing it for a while. Like your soul already knows, like it's one with source, right? It already knows it's like sovereign. It's working through these processes through the body, but the body itself is like, I don't feel like I've had that, so I don't know what it is. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
How can,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm like constantly giving my humanness permission to be in sovereignty. Well, how are
Yes.
you going to take your power back with that then? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
right. I totally just gave that away. Okay, what would you like to do with that? And it's constantly like walking with it like it's a little baby as it's working through these processes to be like, hey, how much empowerment do you want in this space? What can you do then to surrender that piece? And then on the other side of that, there's going to be an expansion rate,
Yeah.
right? Something new is going to open up. Something's going to be able to be received. But it knows now, multifaceted, that it's got to go through the contraction phase when it comes up.
100%. 100%. Yeah. And it is difficult. We're not going to get it perfect every time. There's
No.
going to be times that maybe you don't voice yourself. Maybe you think, I really should have stood up for myself. I really should have advocated more. I really should have said something different. I really should have said
Totally.
no. Or,
Totally.
that's going to happen. Even now, that happens to me. And I sit there and think, why did you do that? But sometimes it's an involuntary, subconscious response of people pleasing or avoiding confrontation. And then I have to, like, look at it after the fact. But it's becoming more and more clear immediately after the fact that that's something I need to look at. And so, again, this is just reminding everybody, none of us are perfect. None of us are getting to a place where, like, aha, this is something I need to be break before it happens. Like,
Yeah,
that's
no.
not always something that happens. Sometimes it happens, then you realize you need to stop doing that shit. So, we're not perfect. We grow from
No.
learning and from fucking up, for lack
Oh,
of
I
a
know.
better
I'm like, I'm
word.
gonna be straight honest with you guys. Sometimes I am a fucking mess, and
Yeah, literally,
like all over,
legit.
like totally nuts, and I know it. And I also know it's a part of the process, and it's meeting myself in that facet and going, look, I'm a mess. Guess what? I didn't do this. I didn't take action on this. I totally said this, and it happened. I was out and about with people, and like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, and I'm gonna continue to say that we're not here to be on a perfect gravy train. You know,
No, no,
we wouldn't
no.
have the expansion phase if we weren't a mess sometimes.
Exactly. That's the places we grow from, because we look at that and think, fuck that shit. I'm not going back to that. I'm not doing that again. It's the growth that comes from that, hitting that wave, to think, actually, that's
Right.
not me. I don't want to resonate in that
Yep.
frequency anymore. So then
Yep.
we raise up higher and higher. And I like what you said about the taking accountability and, like, action, because it
Yep.
ties in with that following through theme that we
Yes.
was talking about earlier
Yes.
on. And it's like, I have been feeling lately like I need to stop talking about things and doing them. I need to stop having
Yep.
ideas and writing them down and not
Yep.
actually following it
Yep.
through. And
Yep.
because it's creating frustration and resentment for self, which is creating lower feelings about self, which is not great in the overall. So I needed to take action on one thing at a time. Stop expecting myself to be perfect. Stop expecting it to be of this
Yep.
caliber and level that it's
Yep.
not going to be at,
Yep.
and
Yep.
just meet myself where I were at and show up in that moment and follow it through. And also creating the time and setting boundaries to be able to create that space to follow through in and not
Absolutely.
taking on everything else and everyone else as a priority over self. That was a big part of me following through,
Yep.
was creating time
Yep.
and space for it
Yep.
and enforcing that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with that, and I appreciate your
Mm.
perspective on that and how you've worked it. It was me really not having an outcome on what that was going to look like. The perfectionist piece came through the
Yeah.
space. It was definitely me creating boundaries for myself. And sometimes I'm going to be honest with that. I created so much of a boundary that then I isolated, and I'd be doing the things, and then at the end of the day, I had like zero connection. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a balance right there.
Right.
I had fallen
No,
through
there
this
is.
task, and then
Yeah.
so it's really for me, I want to keep the balance. I also, I make it simple for myself. I'm going to do one small task. Okay, that's going
Mhm.
to be enough for this particular project. I'm going to get it done
Yes.
today, instead of like I need to get it all done right now. Like this is going to be the thing. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't work for me. Then there's the pressure, the force piece, and then I'm going to go back into density that I don't want to be at, right? So
And then nothing gets done.
nothing
I
gets done.
used to literally, I need to do this. Oh, I'm burnt out, can't do any of it. Like literally that would happen. So now I'm like, no, you do this. And then if you have time, you can do this. But other than that, we're not doing anything else. It's like
Exactly. Yeah,
small things one at a time. And then feeling really productive when you do it and actually giving yourself the same praise in
exactly.
in the reflection that you would give yourself pressure and shit for not doing it. Give yourself the same amount of praise and love for
Exactly.
doing it, because
I was gonna
it's
say
not
that.
equal if you're not doing that
Totally, totally.
reverberate.
Like celebrate those one little follow through actions. That's like
Mm-hmm.
for me, if I'm gonna go onto my platform and do like 15 minutes, I'm like, that is a follow through. I did what I was gonna do. There is, I didn't have an outcome based piece, but I'm gonna be really excited about that one little bit that I did because to the picture of a whole, that's still working through the process and following through.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's another, like your little earrings. It's a piece of the overall puzzle piece, my darling.
Indeed.
Mhm.
All right, this has been
That was a
fantastic.
good
I
place to
certainly
wrap it up.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it's been
Yeah.
lovely today. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Good wrap up into keeping yourself sovereign in your own energy, being very vulnerable, getting you into a space of expansion and moving through the things that you want to move through, surrendering into all things really. I feel like this whole universe, especially in a human consciousness, is all about surrendering to the moment.
Truly, truly. And stepping into that sovereignty piece, like you say, and everyone that your little jigsaw piece has got me thinking about, everyone's got their own piece of the puzzle. We don't need to be the same. We're not meant to be the same. We're all meant
Right.
to be our own individual unique piece of the puzzle. So
Yep.
please work on having your own authenticity, sovereignty, and empowerment of self, because that's how we all raise the collective frequencies, by honing in on our own frequency. And again, that doesn't need to be done isolated and alone, like you say, Z. That can be done in community and connection, but
Yep.
it's working on your frequency rather than achieving to be like someone else.
Exactly. And you guys are all beautiful and I want you guys to be yourself because I wouldn't want to be working off of Anya's frequency because she's amazing as she is. I want to hold mine steady and that's my sovereignty,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we need to get rid of that worshipping paradigm and that trying to be something else for someone else, or trying to mold yourself into being pleasable and
Yep.
liked by that. No, we need to get out of that. It's stepping into
Yep,
your
definitely.
own, who am I? What does that look like? What does that feel like? How can I embody that more?
Yep. Yep. And
Mhm.
that could be again making it very simple, the simple alignment phases that you can do per day. Because I know that the overall picture can be a little overwhelming as far as like the ascension process and what am I doing? This is coming up. Like, take a moment to just be for a second. And then if it's one tiny thing that you're doing that feels in alignment, then you're in the right space.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Totally agree. Well, thank you for today, my beautiful lady. And I
Thank
hope you
you.
have a lovely rest of your day.
Yeah, you as well. And thank you everybody for watching this. Please pop in some questions if you'd like
Yes.
to, and we will be back on.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.